We finally got the last 4 episodes of the most recent season of Chucky, that being season 3, and it ended off in a way that I actually didn't expect it to. So as we've been doing for the past couple of videos, let's go over some of what had gone down and see how they might go on to continue the series. So first we start off with episode 5, where we saw Chucky struggling with himself, about to die of old age, and as soon as it looks like that he's about to give up, he has a phone call with Tiffany, and she convinces him to get out of that rut that he's in and to continue to go on killing. Chucky obliges, and at the end of the episode he goes on to kill the President of the United States and then gets the nuclear codes from him / the White House. In this episode as well, Lexi reconciles with the president's older son, Grant, and they manage to connect with each other and be on good terms again. In this episode as well, as a bonus, some weird things start taking place at the White House, most particularly in paranormal fashion. With that episode ending in the president's death, we then go on to episode 6, and in this one, we see that in this universe, the White House staff comes to the conclusion that they gotta have a double for the president here, and have that one be portrayed to the public that he is dying of more natural causes, instead of the gruesome way that he died from Chucky in the previous episode. Chucky, in manipulating the president's younger son, Henry, later on, gets him to take him to the president's double, and then has him take them to the nuclear room, where Chucky basically intends to nuke the whole entire world. Chucky manages to launch one of the nukes to the North Pole, but as the trio of kids come into play, they manage to stop Chucky in his tracks, and as the doll is seen to be dying on the massive table in front of them, he then withers away in Thanos snap style, and is presumed to now be fully dead. That is, until we then see that the ghost of Charles Lee Ray comes into the scene, and has something planned up his sleeve. This way of going about the show was pretty interesting to see, and it was special to witness the main man himself, Brad Dourif, come back to play the serial killer in his own current state of body. But yeah, that is where episode 6 ends, and then we move on to the next one. Episode 7, where in this one it starts off with Charles going into the spirit realm, and he meets up with the notorious Damballa himself, only in this case, the entity isn't a good guy doll, as it takes shape of whatever Charles was familiar with. In here, Charles has a conversation with him, and Damballa almost sends Charles to hell, until they come to an agreement where Damballa chooses to give Charles one last chance to do what he needs him to do, and Charles, while taking advantage of being in the spirit realm, goes on to get even more kills, one of them being the president double, and also causes even more chaos with his paranormal actions. Now, during this, a sidekick named Timmy gets brought into the White House to try and figure out what is going on, and as the trio meets up with him to talk about the current situation, they all end up having a get together at a table where they go on to communicate with the spirit realm so that they can talk to Charles and also find out where Lexi's sister Caroline is. During the communication though, Charles messes with them, and then at the end of it, ends up killing some of the people that were involved in the get together. With the group growing tired of Charles's antics, they come to a conclusion that in order to get the proper info from Chucky, one of them may have to go on to become temporarily dead to cross over to the spirit realm, and Jake goes on to do just that as he volunteers to go through with it, as he plans on going into the spirit realm and hopes to find the familiar character of good Chucky and see if he can find out where Caroline is through talking with him. With the White House resources at their disposal and being provided to them, Jake will then go through with the plan and become injected with the temporarily dead needle, and then go on to try and meet Chucky in the spirit realm, and that's where the episode ends. During the same episode though, we also see that Tiffany is set to be injected with a needle that will kill her as well in prison, but for her, it's to cause her a permanent death as she had been assigned to be punished in the mortal manner. And after another week of waiting over here in the real world, we finally get the 8th and final episode of Chucky season 3, and it starts off with where the last episode had ended off, of course, with both Jake and Tiffany about to get injected for their planned deaths. Let's start off with Tiffany's plot here though, as we can get through that relatively quick. So Tiffany, as she gets the needle through her body, gets saved at the very last second before injection by this guy here that comes through the door and shoots everybody in the vicinity, and then goes on to rescue Tiffany from that prison and has her escape in a healthy manner. And we'll get back to her in a bit, but now we move on to Jake and see what he's up to. So Jake, he successfully goes on to die and goes into the spirit realm, where first he actually ends up meeting up with his dad, and after a bit of them expressing their disconcerns with each other of their actions in the earthly world, they end up reconciling and end off on a good note, as Jake goes on to forgive him and the father becomes pleased with his son once again. Jake and Charles / Chucky then find each other in the spirit realm, and Charles takes Jake into this theater room where we see a variety of Chuckies from their different stages in life as a human, and then also multiple ones from when they were dolls, with Good Chucky being included as one of them here. As they're in the room, Good Chucky sneaks off, and then Jake goes chasing after him, where they then end up in the room together. Jake and Good Chucky have a conversation where Jake is told about Caroline and where she is at, and then Jake tries to convince Good Chucky that he needs to sacrifice himself so that the evilness of Charles Lee Ray could finally go away. And as this is being said, Charles and the rest of the Chucky entities show up, and Good Chucky reveals himself to have been evil this whole time and laughs at Jake as time is running out for him to get back to his body. And when Jake goes on to try and get back, he sees that a good guy doll version of Chucky had already beaten him to get to the Jake body, and we then get the sense that Chucky will now be taking over Jake's body. But before that could happen, we get this bizarre visual here of Devin basically making out with Chucky, as in the real world, Devin is giving the Jake body CPR, and this had actually kind of gone viral online as people were questioning what was going on. But going to the episode, the Jake body becomes alive, and it is now seen that Chucky is in possession of it. Without the rest of the group knowing of it though, they all try to escape the White House as it is being burned down, and Chucky, in Jake's body, kills Timmy when they're on their own, and then Chucky, still in Jake's body, takes Lexi and Devin over to the location of where Caroline is supposedly at, which is at this mansion here. The owner of the mansion opens the door, and it turns out to be the guy that created the good guy dolls and lets the trio into his house. There, it is then revealed that he is working with Chucky, and Caroline comes out to be alive and well at the location. The familiar ritual with the Damballa saying then takes place, where now this time Chucky, in Jake's body, and the good guy doll go on to switch places, and with that, Jake returns to the real world in his own, and Chucky is now back in the good guy doll. And as we see as what they planned on doing to the original trio of kids, the camera then cuts to Tiffany arriving to the mansion, where her and Chucky then meet again. It's then also seen at this time that Nika was actually following Tiffany as well, and when she comes into the house soon after, we are all then surprised, just like Nika, to see that the kids have now been turned into dolls and have been basically entrapped now up to this point. During this, T'Challa and Caroline is seen driving out of the location and far away, with now having the bride doll version of Tiffany and the good guy Chucky doll making out in the backseat and off to their new adventure. And that's where the plot ends for the season. We do get another short of a Chucky talking to the audience here, but this time he's given like a presidential address and is basically asking us to give him a 4th term, where, when you read into it, it's him basically wanting us to get him a 4th season of the show. So now, with a cliffhanger like that, you already know that fans are clamoring for at least one more season to be renewed so that we can get a full-on ending here for the series. They have gone on to use the hashtag #RenewChucky on their social medias, most specifically X, giving their thoughts on everything. Currently, it is being decided whether or not a new season is going to be renewed though. Personally, I believe that we will be getting some more of the show in the future, but I think that it would just be one more season. That's my guess at least, as when you take a look at the ratings from the very first season's episodes up to now, they have been decreasing over the years. I mean, to be fair though, that's just cable TV dying in general, and less people tuning into the stations, especially with the episodes recently just being able to come out on Peacock the very next day. Of course, the ratings will go lower here on TV, with the majority of cases being like that, so in that case, I don't think that TV channels like Sci-Fi and the USA Network would want to do another set of seasons. I would think they would just be fine with doing one more season to tie loose ends, and then just have the franchise return to making movies again. And who knows, maybe in the far future, they could have another run with another series. But with this current show here, its future is a bit up in the air, but that is my prediction on it. We'll probably just get one more season in season 4, and then go back to films for the foreseeable future. The good thing about this current show though, while we got it here, is that at the very least, it is being appreciated by not just fans of the franchise, but it had also done relatively well for the critics watching as well. But even with all that, with as positive reviews of that sort, we're just still gonna have to wait and see how the producers and everyone else go about the franchise in the future. I know that Nika actress Fiona Dourif wants it though.
Season 4 will be so good, so funny, so surprising that we have to do it. Call a number and demand a season 4 from the executives. They're deciding now.
And with all that being said here, that'll be the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in another one.